Welcome to a new episode from English Plus Podcast. Today we will talk about myths and legends, and we will talk about Heracles, or Hercules as you might know him, and that is the Roman name for Heracles. We will talk about the life of this legendary character or mythical character. We will talk about his 12 labors, and we will talk about his death at the end. We have a lot to cover, so let's get started with our story about Heracles. The greatest of all heroes in Greek mythology, Heracles was the strongest man on earth. Besides tremendous physical strength, he had great self-confidence and considered himself equal to the gods. Heracles, or called Hercules by the Romans, was not blessed with great intelligence, but his bravery made up for any lack of cunning. Easily angered, his sudden outbursts of rage often harmed innocent bystanders. When the fury passed, though, Heracles was full of sorrow and guilt for what he had done and ready to accept any punishment for his misdeeds. Only supernatural forces could defeat him, and it was magic that ended his mortal life. In Greek mythology, only two figures with half-mortal, half-god parentage, Heracles and Dionysus, became fully immortal and were worshipped as gods. Heracles was the son of Zeus and Alcmene, the wife of Amphitryon, a distinguished Greek warrior and heir to the throne of Tiryns. One night, while Amphitryon was away, Zeus came to Alcmene disguised as her husband. The next day, the real Amphitryon returned and slept with his wife. Concerned that Amphitryon did not remember being with Alcmene on both nights, the couple consulted the blind prophet Tiresias, who could see the workings of the gods. He told them that Zeus had slept with Alcmene the first night and predicted that she would bear a child who would become a great hero. Alcmene bore twin boys, Heracles, the son of Zeus, and Iphicles, the son of Amphitryon. When the goddess Hera discovered that Zeus had seduced Alcmene and fathered Heracles, she was furious. Hera was fiercely jealous of Zeus's lovers and children and pursued them mercilessly. She tried to kill the infant Heracles by having two poisonous snakes placed in his crib one night. However, the infant grabbed the snakes and strangled them. Though Hera failed to kill Heracles, she persecuted him throughout his life, causing many of the events that led to his great suffering and punishments. As a young boy, Heracles became aware of his extraordinary strength and his temper. Like most Greek youths, he took music lessons. One day, Linus, his music master, was teaching Heracles to play the lyre. Heracles became frustrated, flew into a rage, and banged the lyre down on Linus's head. The blow killed Linus instantly. Heracles was shocked and very sorry. He had not meant to kill his teacher, he just did not know his own strength. While still a young man, Heracles went to fight the Minions, a group that had been forcing the people of Thebes to pay money to them. As a reward for conquering the Minions, the king of Thebes gave Heracles the hand of his daughter Megara. Heracles was devoted to Megara and the 3 children she bore him. One day after Heracles returned home from a journey, Hera struck him with a fit of madness during which he killed his wife and children. When he came to his senses, Heracles was horrified by what he had done. Devastated with sorrow and guilt, the hero went to the oracle at Delphi, where humans could communicate with the gods, to ask how he could make up for his crime. The oracle told him to go to King Eurystheus of Tiryns and submit to any punishment asked of him. The oracle also announced that if Heracles completed the tasks set before him, he would become immortal. And here we come to the 12 labors, the famous 12 labors of Heracles. King Eurystheus gave Heracles a series of 12 difficult and dangerous tasks, known as the 12 labors of Heracles. These were his most famous feats. The hero's first task was to kill the Nemean lion, a monstrous beast that terrorized the countryside and could not be killed by any weapon. Heracles strangled the beast with his bare hands and made its skin into a cloak that made him invulnerable or unable to be harmed. For his second labor, the hero had to kill the Lernaean Hydra, a creature with 9 heads that lived in a swamp. One of the beast's heads was immortal, and the others grew back when cut off. With the help of his friend Iolaus, Heracles cut off the Hydra's 8 heads and burned each wound, which prevented new heads from growing back. Because he could not cut off the 9th head, he buried the creature under a great rock. The next task was to capture the Cyrenian hind, a golden-horned deer that was sacred to the goddess Artemis. After hunting the animal for a year, Heracles finally managed to capture it. As he was taking it to Tiryns, Artemis stopped him and demanded that he return the deer. The hero promised that the sacred animal would not be harmed, and she allowed him to continue on his journey. The fourth labor of Heracles was to seize the Erymanthian boar, a monstrous animal that ravaged the lands around Mount Erymanthus. After forcing the animal from its lair, Heracles chased it until it became so exhausted that he could catch it easily. The hero's fifth task was to clean the Augean stables in one day. King Augeas, the son of the sun god Helios, had great herds of cattle whose stables had not been cleaned for many years. Heracles accomplished the task by diverting rivers to run through the filthy stables and wash them clean. The sixth task involved driving away the Stymphalian birds, a flock of birds with claws, beaks, and wings of iron that ate humans and that were terrorizing the countryside. Helped by the goddess Athena, Heracles forced the birds from their nests and shot them with a bow and arrow. Eurystheus next ordered Heracles to seize the Cretan bull and bring it back to Tiryns alive. This savage bull had been a gift from Poseidon to King Minos of Crete. The king gave Heracles permission to catch it and take it away. For his eighth task, Heracles was ordered to capture the mares of Diomedes, a herd of horses that belonged to King Diomedes of Thrace and that ate human flesh. Heracles killed Diomedes and fed him to the mares. Then the hero tamed the horses and brought them back to Eurystheus. The ninth labor consisted of obtaining the girdle of Hippolyta, the queen of the Amazons. Hippolyta greeted Heracles warmly and agreed to give him the girdle, but then Hera caused trouble, making the Amazons think that Heracles planned to kidnap their queen. They attacked, and Heracles killed Hippolyta and took the girdle. For his 10th labor, Heracles had to capture the cattle of Geryon, a monster with 3 bodies that lived in the far west on the island of Erythea. After a difficult journey by sea and across the desert, Heracles killed Geryon, a herdsman, and an enormous guard dog, and then took the cattle and returned with them to Tiryns. The 11th labor involved bringing back the golden apples of the Hesperides, a group of nymphs, female nature deities, who lived in the far west. According to one account, Heracles requested help from the Hesperides' father, the giant Atlas, who held up the sky. Heracles offered to take Atlas's place under the sky if he would fetch the apples from his daughters. Atlas agreed and obtained the apples, but then he refused to take back the sky. Heracles asked Atlas to hold the sky for just a moment while he got a pad to ease the burden on his shoulders. Atlas agreed, but as soon as Atlas took back the sky, Heracles grabbed the apples and fled. In another version of this story, Heracles obtained the apples by himself after killing a dragon that stood guard over the tree on which they grew. Heracles' final task was one of the most difficult and dangerous. He had to descend to the kingdom of Hades and capture Cerberus, the fierce 3-headed dog that guarded the gates to the underworld. Hades said Heracles could take Cerberus if he used no weapons to overcome the beast. Heracles wrestled Cerberus into submission or gave him drugged food and carried him to Eurystheus. Heracles had many other adventures during his lifetime. He killed other beasts and monsters, engaged in numerous battles against his enemies, joined the expedition of Jason and the Argonauts, and even fought the god Apollo. Throughout, he faced the hatred of Hera, who continued to persecute him because he was the son of Zeus. Later in his life, Heracles married Deianira, a princess whose hand he had won by fighting the river god Achelous. Heracles also saved Deianira from a centaur, half human, half horse, named Nessus, who tried to harm her. As Nessus lay dying from Heracles' arrows, he urged Deianira to take some of his blood, telling her it would act as a magic potion that could secure her husband's love forever. Some years later, fearing that Heracles had fallen in love with another woman, Deianira took the potion and smeared it on a robe for her husband. The potion was really a terrible poison, and when Heracles put on the poisoned garment, it burned his skin, causing an agonizing pain that could not be stopped. When Deianira discovered what had happened, she killed herself. The dying Heracles ordered his son to build a funeral pyre, a large pile of burning wood used in some cultures to cremate a dead body, and the hero lay down upon it. As the flames of the pyre grew, a great cloud appeared, a bolt of lightning struck, and the body of Heracles disappeared. Heracles, now an immortal god, had been taken to Mount Olympus to be with his father Zeus and the other gods. Even Hera welcomed him and allowed him to marry her daughter Hebe. The astounding popularity of Heracles throughout the ancient world has been the source of much speculation about his appeal. Some have argued that his virtuous nature, combined with his marginal intelligence and brute strength, made him a more accessible character than even many of the gods. It has also been suggested that since he is primarily known as a conqueror of beasts instead of men, people of all regions can appreciate his feats. This is in direct contrast to some heroes who are popular only within a local area due to their battles against a particular group generally viewed as enemies. He was worshipped in temples as far away as Egypt, and the Greeks honored his death with a festival known as the Heraclea. Heracles was also popular because he was a man who overcame the cruel whims of the gods to earn his place as an immortal. After the time of Alexander the Great, when kingdoms developed out of the lands conquered by Alexander, Heracles came to represent the model king, a man who lived his life in service to the people. Overlooking the violent aspects of the life of Heracles, the focus was on his good deeds in ridding the Greek countryside of dangerous beasts. His deeds were so great that the gods elevated him to the level of a deity. Although the Greeks worshipped him more as a hero than as a god, in similar fashion, kings began to claim that the deceased founders of their realm had become gods, and then the kings claimed that they were gods too. Roman leaders adopted the idea of worshipping dead emperors, but stopped short of claiming that living rulers were also gods. The connection between gods and rulers would develop later as the divine right of European kings. Although they did not claim to be gods, kings claimed that God deliberately appointed them to rule over the people, which meant that their rule could not be questioned or overthrown. Heracles is a symbol of pure physical strength. He was often pictured in artwork holding a club, usually fighting one of the many beasts he encountered during his 12 labors. He is so strong that he can only be destroyed by trickery and magic. Heracles also demonstrates success against all odds. His 12 fabled tasks are all virtually impossible, yet he perseveres and prevails. An important theme found in the myths of Heracles is ill-fated romantic relationships. Heracles is driven by Hera to kill his wife and children in a fit of madness. This happens because of Hera's jealousy over Zeus having a son with a human woman. In addition, Deianira accidentally poisons Heracles because she is insecure about their relationship. In modern times, Heracles, usually called by his Roman name Hercules, is one of the most recognized figures in all of Greek mythology. He has appeared as a character in countless books, films, and television shows. He was the focus of the long-running television series Hercules: The Legendary Journeys, with Kevin Sorbo starring as the hero. His myth was famously retold with some alterations in the 1997 Disney animated film Hercules, and after that, many films were created to retell the story of the famous Hercules. So that was everything I wanted to share with you about Hercules, this great mythical character. You can take the link you can find in the description and go to our website EnglishPlusPodcast.com and find the transcript of this episode and some questions you might want to use to check your understanding or how much you remember of what we said about Hercules. But there is also one more thing. If you are interested in thinking and discussing some more things about Hercules, you're more than welcome to comment on what I'm going to tell you. It's not a kind of an assignment, but you can call it an assignment if you like, and I will happily look at them and answer you, and maybe we can start a discussion about Hercules. So, Heracles was unique in Greek mythology because he was a hero who ultimately became recognized as a god. In modern times, people continue to recognize heroes as special or different from the average human. These heroes, of course, might be sports stars, political activists, or soldiers, to name a few possibilities. Can you think of a modern-day hero, living or dead, who has earned a larger-than-life status? In what way is this person treated differently than others? Is this person already the subject of any myths or legends? And here, of course, we're not talking about Greek myths or legends, but here we mean anything that cannot be verified historically. Think about that. And if you would like to share that with us, you can go to our website and share your ideas with us in the comments section that belongs to the custom post we created for this episode. Now, with that being said, I would like to thank you very much for listening to another episode. I hope you liked it. This is your host, Danny. I will see you next time.